Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings wide receiver video for week 6. Excuse me. As you can see, I'm a little stuffed up at the moment, so I'm going to get into the into the PowerPoint slides for us. This way we can talk about the wide receivers and give you guys a couple options that you can use this week. There are 5 guys who we consider to be top targets on DraftKings this week, guys that we want to make sure we have some exposure to in our rosters. 3 of them are at the high end, and 2 of them are cheaper options. One is only if you're playing on Thursday night, but if you are, he's somebody that should be in your lineup. The first guy we're going to talk about is DeAndre Hopkins. Excuse me. He's 7,700 on DraftKings this week, averaging a league high 14.8 targets per game so far, coming down with 8 catches and 115 yards, and he's getting at least 1 red zone look every game so far. He's been targeted on 30% of the routes that they've run, which is 30% of the routes that he's run, which is 6th overall in the NFL. So when he goes out on a passing route, there's always a good chance that he's going to be the guy who's getting the ball. He comes at a discount to some of the top options that we have on the week, guys like Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, even Antonio Bryan as well. And he's seen more volume than all of those guys. So Hopkins at 7,700, even though the price has risen, he still looks like a pretty good play here for week 6. The next guy we're going to talk about is Brandon Marshall at 7,100. Now, as a Jet fan, this makes me very happy. He's got 3 straight 100-yard games, averaging 7.5 catches per game on about 11 targets. He has a great matchup for him versus Chris Culliver, who has been picked on with success so far in 2015 for the Redskins. Now, Culliver is banged up as well, so he may not play, but I can't imagine that there's somebody on the bench who's better than him. Otherwise, he probably would already have the starting job with how bad that Culliver's been so far this year. A Culliver at less than 100% is going to be a big problem going up against Brandon Marshall. Washington has allowed 250 yards passing in each of their last 3 games. So I do expect the Jets to get some yards through the air here. And I think that Marshall's somebody who's going to get a big lion's share of that work and should come up with another good game. Larry Fitzgerald is the next guy I want to talk about on the list at only $7,000. He's averaging 7 catches a game for over 100 yards and a touchdown per game. And for some reason, he's much discounted from some of the top options that we have here. Pittsburgh has a top-ranked rush defense, so the way to really attack them is going to be by throwing the ball, which is going to benefit Fitzgerald, who's the most targeted receiver on that Arizona team. He's got a great matchup with either William Gay or Antoine Blake, and he has 6 inches and 20 pounds on each one of those guys. So if he does get down near the red zone, he's going to have a big mismatch and should be somebody that they look to go to. Larry Fitzgerald is somebody that gets you catches, yards, and red zone looks just about every game. The touchdowns have been there for him this year. Arizona's expected to score a lot of points, and he looks like a really good option in this one at only $7,000. Last, we have 2 cheap options that I want to mention. The first one is Jamison Crowder at 3,600 for the Washington Redskins. They're an underdog to the Jets, so they should be trailing and throwing late. He has 21 catches in his last 3 games since getting playing time due to injuries. Now, Deshaun Jackson is kind of expected back this weekend, but the injury that's more important to me is the one to Jordan Reed. Not only does Jordan Reed not being in open up a lot of targets, but it also opens up a lot of those underneath routes that he used to run. While Mark Carrier will be in there for some of them, they're also going to use Crowder in 3 wide receiver sets, to run a lot of that underneath stuff and make some catches. So it gives him a really good chance to rack up some catches and get some good fantasy points. He's been averaging 14.2 fantasy points in the last 3 games since he's been getting that playing time, and that's great value for a guy who's only 3,600. The last guy I want to discuss is Willie Sneed. Since week 2, he has 21 catches on 30 targets. He's seen his catches, his snaps, and his targets increase every week, and that should remain high tonight with Marcus Colson expected to be out. He was targeted 11 times and is now considered to be a starting wide receiver on that New Orleans Saints team. There's a 51-point over-under in this game, and the Saints are expected to be trailing, which means they should be throwing late. 3,300 is dirt cheap for a guy like Sneed, who really only needs about 13 points to pay it off. And if he gets 11 targets again, he should be able to pay that off easy with the potential upside if he can get a touchdown. Those are some of the wide receiver options that I'm looking at for this weekend. Like I said, that $7,000 range, there's a lot of guys there that are pretty interesting. Guys like Marshall and guys like Fitzgerald down at the bottom end of that $7,000 range will still allow you to have enough money to fit in a big stud if you decide you want to go with a guy like Le'Veon Bell at running back, or even if you decide you want to pay up for Gronk or pay up for a third stud wide receiver. That $7,000 price range is one that's really nice and fits really well into your roster. So I do like all three of those guys. Remember, if you're playing the Thursday night game, that's the only way you'll be able to use a guy like Sneed. And again, if you're playing in the Thursday game and you are able to use a guy like Sneed at 3,300, you'll have no problem paying up for Le'Veon Bell and still putting guys like Fitzgerald and Marshall in your roster, who give you a lot of upside if you're playing in your cash games. And they give you a lot of safety if you're playing in your cash games, but also give you a lot of upside for GPPs. So thank you for joining us here at RotoCurve for Week 6 wide receiver review. Thank you, and as always, be classy, DFS.